This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Caroline Bargout. Janet Stewart is off this week. Muslims are now fasting for Ramadan as the holy month arrived with ceasefire talks at a standstill in Gaza. But this year's celebrations are more difficult for many as the war rages on in the Middle East. CBC's Brittany Greenslade is live outside the Winnipeg Grand Mosque on Waverley tonight, where prayers are underway.
Caroline, Ramadan is a time of self-reflection, joy and family for the more than 1.8 billion Muslims around the world. But with the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas, the holy month comes at a challenging time. And for those celebrating here in Winnipeg, it's difficult.
It is challenging, and sometimes you feel, how about if it's happening to my life? How about it's my children? How about, it's my spouse, my, daughters? And or any other human being. Actually, if you see this kind of thing, you become emotional. You're definitely, your heart cries.
Ramadan is a time when Muslims worldwide fast, not eating or drinking anything between sunrise and sunset every day for 30 days. It's a sacred month, but the celebration this year is marred. This year's Ramadan comes as the Middle East remains inflamed by the ongoing Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip. It's raised fears that the conflict may spark unrest far beyond the current borders of the war. Like other countries around the world, Canada has for months seen major protests demanding an end to the Gaza war, which began in early October. Israel's attacks on Gaza have caused widespread devastation and displacement, and the Israeli government continues to block aid deliveries. The growing risk of famine and mass starvation is now adding to a death toll that has already passed 31,000. Talks of a ceasefire and the hope of having dozens of Israeli hostages held in Gaza returned have stalled. It would have allowed Ramadan to pass peacefully. For many, there is little to celebrate after 5 months of war, and they say this is not a Muslim issue, but a humanitarian one.
But that's the time Ramadan teaches you that you have to be patient. You have to show empathy and compassion with the people around you, and not only Muslim, but the all human being. And you have to, you have to help the people, whatever the capacity you get a chance, whenever and wherever you get that chance.
The community is asking Muslims and non-Muslims to come together on Saturday to break the fast together in celebration here at the Grand Mosque at 6 o'clock. Caroline?
Thanks, Brittany. That's CBC's Brittany Greenslade live outside the Winnipeg Grand Mosque. Affordable housing in Winnipeg is hard to come by, and 2 recent fires have made the problem even worse. An apartment complex on Toronto Street was destroyed last week. A neighboring building was also impacted by the fire, leaving 54 people homeless. Last month, another large building on Furby Street was damaged by fire. James Zepp lived in that building with his wife and paid around $1,000 a month in rent. He says finding a new home they could afford wasn't easy.
I'm sure we looked at 9 suites in the first 3 days, and there were ones that weren't as nice as what we had move over into Wolseley. They were running $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month.
Zepp and his wife ended up in a place on Pembina Highway. The vacancy rate for rentals in Winnipeg dropped to 1.8% last year, down from 2.7% in 2022. A 3-story building on Main Street is expected to be a complete loss after a fire Friday night. Firefighters were called just before 8 on Friday and worked through the night to get the blaze under control. It shut down traffic on the busy street. No injuries were reported. It's believed the building was vacant. This is the latest in a string of major fires in the downtown area. The Premier used the arrival of Ramadan to again call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Wab Kanu acknowledges some people may not like it, but he says he's against striving to be an ally to the Muslim and Jewish communities. For more, we're joined by CBC's Ian Fraze. Ian, the Premier has asked for a ceasefire before. What's different this time?
Well, he wants the feds to call for a ceasefire as well. Kanu says Israel was justified in targeting Hamas, but he doesn't believe the country is conducting a war in a targeted enough way that protects as many civilian lives as possible. He also believes the Palestinian people shouldn't be held accountable for the actions of a few.
Some may argue it is unfair to hold Israel to such a standard, that this country be expected to wield their military might in a responsible fashion during an asynchronous conflict. But Israel is strong, and the strong have a responsibility to exercise their power in a way that is just. I would expect this of any democracy, or indeed any country in good standing with the international community as Israel is.
The Jewish Federation of Winnipeg says it continues to talk to the Manitoba government about this conflict. It says the war would be over if Hamas released the hostages and stopped fighting.
Ian, on a different matter, the PCs are accusing the NDP of taking credit for their work. What's that about?
Yeah, well, the NDP government has put out ads on social media touting income tax that are already in effect. Now, what bothers the PCs about this is that it was them, while in government, that passed these tax cuts. As a reminder, these changes involve raising the amount of money people can earn before paying income tax, and again raising the amount of money people earn until the higher tax rates kick in. Here's PC interim leader Wayne Wascombe.
Honorable Speaker, taking credit for the work of others is nothing new to you-know-who. And now, because the NDP have no plan, NDP advertising, PC savings.
Canoe countered that it was his government's the one that's doing the work of paying for these tax cuts. Caroline.
Thanks, Ian. That's CBC's Ian Fraze live from the newsroom. A new poll shows our new premier's popularity is growing. The Angus Reid poll found 63% of respondents approve of Wav Canoe's performance. That's up 6 points from the last poll. Political studies professor Christopher Adams says it's still early days in Canoe's reign.
I would say this poll is still in the honeymoon phase, but after we get our first budget, a picture of what's being spent in healthcare and education and controlling the deficit, I think that's when we will start seeing people having views of how this government is working.
What we're doing here today is we're sending.
Adams says Canoe has faced little opposition since he was elected. He also says the poll sampling of Manitobans is very small, with less than 400 participants. An upcoming Indigenous drama is filming here in Winnipeg's North End. The film, Many Wounds, deals with the impacts of intergenerational trauma and the challenges with trying to break those cycles. Ojibwe writer and director Jeremy Torrey grew up here.
This type of story and the subject matter impacts everybody, right? It crosses every cultural and societal boundary. So for us, we'd like to be able to bring this story to the world and to share it with everyone so that they can feel something, right? And connect with us rather than saying, hey, this is an Indigenous story or it's a BIPOC story.
Torrey weaves his own painful experience into the film's main character. He says while the film deals with heavy subjects, he wants audiences to be filled with hope and for it to be one day shown in classrooms. Dozens of people showed up yesterday at the Millennium Library calling for an increase in services. The City of Winnipeg's draft budget expands hours at city libraries, and proposed changes will see libraries open on Sundays between September and May, but not the Millennium Library. It would be closed on Sunday year-round. Some advocates aren't happy about it.
I just feel that this is one of the most utilized spaces in the city. It needs more resources, not fewer. And this was a gathering of people who feel similarly and want to put pressure on the city to reconsider how much funding they're offering to our libraries downtown, particularly Millennium.
They can come here, talk to our community safety hosts who have been trained on finding resources in the community for that specific community to help the people in that community.
The city votes on its budget later this month. Girls Hockey Fest returned to Winnipeg over the weekend. Females of all ages hit the ice with some of their hockey heroes. It was the 15th annual Scotiabank Girls Hockey Fest. Former broadcaster and national team captain Cassie Campbell-Pascal led an on-ice training session. The goal is to get more girls into the sport and encourage them to stick with it.
It's our 15th year in Winnipeg, and continues to grow the game, and it's been an unbelievable program over the years. There's all different groups. We have an elite group, we have a learn to play group. I think the learn to play group, we just saw them, and some of them have never had a pair of skates on before and been on the ice, so they're trying hockey for the very first time, and they're with people that are sort of at the same level as them, so I think it helps them feel a little bit more comfortable.
We learned about how to be a good teammate, and we did some practicing on skills, and yeah.
What was your favorite part?
I don't know, all of it.
For a lot of the new players, we were kind of just working on some basic skills like puck handling or just skating, getting the feet off the ice, or just passing back and forth, just some of the basic stuff. Well, I think it can definitely be tough for girls getting into the sport at the beginning, but I mean, right now we're at a really good time for women's hockey with the PWHL starting, so it's good to see a lot more girls getting into hockey, especially at a young age.
When I played, you had to play with your brother, right? I mean, there were the boys' teams, and there weren't a lot of girls' hockey teams around, and I think over my career it just continued to grow and grow, and when I retired, you're just starting to see it grow and grow, and especially when you come back to centers like Winnipeg, and from 15 years ago to what we're seeing today, our first group was the youngest, and there's a lot of talent here in Manitoba, so it's just fun to watch the game get better and better. It's fun to see more opportunities for young girls to play, and it's fun now that they get to watch their heroes with the Professional Women's Hockey League on a regular basis too. These girls are going to get to watch them on TV every other night, and I think that's really important for them to see these great women on a regular basis, and to say, you know what, maybe one day I can grow up and play professional women's hockey. All the girls that I know that are from Manitoba, Sammy Jo Small, Jennifer Bottrell, Jocelyn Larocque, and Kristen Campbell, the list goes on and on. They've done a really good job of being role models in this province, and you can tell, because there's a lot of great goalies first and foremost, but you can just see at a young level they can skate better, they're just more skilled. They've been introduced to the game in different ways than maybe I was. So kudos to this province for continuing to produce great hockey players.
And dozens of Manitobans took an icy dip over the weekend in Riding Mountain National Park. The daring souls took part in the polar plunge into the icy waters of Lake Catherine on Saturday. The event raised more than $12,000 for Special Olympics Manitoba.
I just took a deep breath and went. I thought it would be worse than it was. The very first polar plunge. I wanted to do it for our athletes. Being a part of Special Olympics, they belong. Being in the regular stream of sports doesn't necessarily fit for them. They don't shine like they do here. Everybody was there for a great cause, and the smiles on everybody's faces, the cheering, that was amazing. The people there, everybody that did the plunge, the mother-daughter team was awesome.
Me and my mom had costumes. We did Hawaiian dresses and a luau necklace. They do a lot of stuff for Special Olympics. It's definitely very helpful for them, and they fundraise a lot, so I'm glad we were able to help with it. So I just jumped in and went for it. I blacked out. It was so cold.
Years ago, I first started working in the rehab field, and the Special Olympics were definitely something that they look forward to with their bowling, and it was a sense of community for them, and it was very good to see them all work together, and it was something to be proud of. This is a good organization. They do wonderful things for people with disabilities.
It started last summer, and I met everybody with soccer on that team, and it was really great, so I stayed. It's like making friends and getting to know new people and having fun.
They are here for each other, they're cheering each other on. Dive right in, get it. Doing it it's exhilarating, it's great for you, and all for a good cause.
And weather specialist Riley Lachuk is here with a first look at weather. What a nice day today.
Nice day today. I will say that very brave people.
Oh my God.
With the polar plunge.
For sure.
And number two, it's very nice to have you here.
Oh, why, thank you.
Lots of
nice
snow.
to be here.
Yeah, lots of snow in the Riding Mountain region. We'll take a look at the snow depth to start, because that's one of the regions where we have seen pretty consistent and pretty normal precipitation for this time of the year into that western part of the province. Boy, oh boy, this has changed since I showed you this, in the last week or so. The southern edge of the province into northwestern Ontario, a lot of that snow has already melted, at least according to this particular model anyway. Still seeing about 20 centimeters on the ground in parts of western Manitoba and about 5 to 10 or so back into northwestern Ontario. Northern Manitoba still seeing quite a bit of that snow on the ground as well, in the 30 to 40 centimeter range even along parts of the Hudson Bay coast. So still quite a bit of snowpack to be found in Manitoba if you're a snow enthusiast. But yeah, we are going to see things, I think, melting as we go through the next few days here, especially since we're going to be looking at temperatures above zero. So satellite and radar, yeah, we did see a mainly sunny day today in southern Manitoba. Some cloud and a little bit of instability moving in through central Manitoba. This bringing a few flurries to Flin Flon, the Pas. You can even see some of that here on radar coverage into the northern Interlake. By and large, though, a pretty warm day, getting up to 10 degrees here in Winnipeg today. Far surpassing my forecast high of 6 for this afternoon. So quite a warm day, and we are looking at warm conditions continuing and sunny conditions continuing as we start the day on Tuesday. Still a little bit of snow lingering through parts of central and northern Manitoba, but as we get into the rest of the day on Tuesday, we start to see clouds building in ahead of a weak area of instability that could give us a few snowflakes or some rain showers as we get through the later part of Wednesday into early Thursday morning. So yeah, a little bit of a mixed bag this week, but we are looking at temperatures staying consistently above seasonal as we head into the next few days. Pressure is falling right now. Southwest winds at 7 degrees now. We did hit, as I mentioned, that high of 10 degrees earlier in the afternoon in Winnipeg. We're looking at dipping down to the freezing mark tonight, a partly cloudy sky. Winds will stay light as we get into the morning tomorrow. 1 degree first thing with west winds at 10, and the winds stay light as we get into the afternoon, mostly cloudy and 2 degrees. And as we look at the next few days even, we're looking at temperatures staying above the freezing mark through the balance of the week. We do see some cloud start to move in on Thursday, this bringing us a bit of a messy mix on the way for Friday at this point. Chance of some rain and some snow, and Caroline, maybe a few more flurries on the way for Saturday, but we do see temperatures kind of returning to normal in the long range, and I'll have those details coming up.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Manitobans are gearing up for spring. More than 100 people took part in Millennium Library's Seedy Saturday event, buying and exchanging seeds for their gardens. It's a nearly 25-year annual gathering that brings garden growers together to swap seeds and planting tips.
And we're here for Seedy Saturday. This means a lot of people who think about gardens and seeds, and there's other entertainment as well here. All about growing stuff. So we're here to gather and exchange seeds.
It's been happening in Winnipeg for probably 25 plus years. Usually in March is the kickoff to spring in garden communities in Manitoba.
With the rising cost of food, it's a big advantage to sow a garden, even if it's very small, even if it's a pot, because whatever you sow in there is going to give you 10-folds what you put in.
Our normal last frost date in Winnipeg is usually around May 24th. All your hard work of growing from March to June could all be ruined if we get a bad frost, right? So you gotta, it's a juggle.
Winnipeg entrepreneurs Reed Valmstead and Austin Mackay had a dream. They wanted to transform their local video production into a global company doing what they call big things. So they used technology called Unreal Engine to create virtual worlds. And now Global Affairs Canada is sending them on a trade mission to South Korea to talk shop. CBC's Jim Agapito visited the pair at Copilot to talk about their special video craft.
At Copilot, we specialize in something called virtual production. And what virtual production is basically the merge of the gaming industry and the film industry, all into one medium that supports the film industry and the television industry.
My name is Austin Mackay, and I'm a co-founder here at Copilot.
My name is Reed, and I'm a co-founder here at Copilot. At Copilot, we started as a pretty small video production company that specialized in tourism. When COVID hit, there wasn't much tourism. So we had to pivot pretty hard. We had to figure out, what the best bet was for us moving forward. And at the time, we're at home watching Netflix like the rest of the world, and we both watched The Mandalorian.
Essentially, what they did was replace the green screen workflow. Everyone's familiar with green screen. We know how the VFX world works. So basically, instead of creating all of these CGI animations you'd put on green screen at the end, they decided, why don't we create all of that stuff in the beginning? We have all these Star Wars assets. Let's develop at the beginning, and let's project it all on a big LED wall. And what that ended up creating was this cool world of virtual production.
And we're like, hey, this is really cool. I think we can do that. And since then, we've basically dedicated a lot of our resources and time to just growing in that industry, and now it's, we're a global brand that works with, global leaders in virtual production specifically.
It kind of merges our two favorite worlds, right? And we were like, hey, we're kind of learning a lot about this. We should make a couple YouTube videos on it.
And we here at Copilot believe that Moses is one of the best places where you can be learning these best practices.
And then that turned into the spiral of all these YouTube videos and informational videos. And from there, we were getting reached out to. People asking us, how do you build a computer that even supports this system? What LED is the best? And we were like, oh, this is interesting. So we just kind of answered them in other videos, and that led to further work and further questions, and it kind of spiraled into something we never really thought that it would.
Tell me what's all here.
For sure. So this is what's called a virtual production studio. This is basically an at-scale size virtual production studio. So in order to make this work and really sell this technology, there's three main components. First one's right here. So this is what's called a camera tracker. Next up, this Frankenstein-looking computer here is basically a supercomputer that we've custom built. Here you see that it's running Unreal Engine. So this is a real-time 3D engine that allows you to put virtual environments. You can build your own environment or load in a pre-existing environment. Okay. The benefit is so simple, where it's putting a visual on a screen behind a set, and you're able to really transport yourself into anywhere that you want to go. Next thing up is to shoot a video together.
All right, well, I got to get off of these city slicker glasses.
Got a gift for you.
Yeehaw!
You're fully in character.
He's just a cowboy.
If a client comes to us, and let's say it's in the middle of winter here in Winnipeg, and they're like, hey, I have to shoot a country scene, it has to be on the prairies. It's a big piece of straw, my friend. From there, we basically create virtual environments using Unreal Engine. We create the scene.
I feel the breeze, I feel the wind. Ah, that slick country air.
Because of the nature of this industry, we could send that file to anywhere in the world. They could, put it on their LED wall if they have one, or we can bring them into the studio space and shoot with them. And just like that, you're immersed in an actual landscape as if it was real.
Yeehaw, my friends.
We're just excited to be a part of this, this industry internationally.
Do you trust me to wrangle your cattle later? I think so.
That's funny.
Gangs have seized control of Haiti's capital. Coming up, we'll have the latest on the unrest. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with his incident response group today to discuss the worsening situation in Haiti. Powerful gangs have seized control of much of the country's capital city in recent weeks. Thousands of Canadians are believed to be trapped in Haiti. CBC's Evan Dyer has the latest.
Haiti's outnumbered police are fighting a losing battle for territory. The city of Port-au-Prince is surrounded by gang territory, and more than 80% of the city itself is under gang control. Only the middle-class area of Pétionville remains under police control. Both the airport and the seaport are now in gang territory. Haiti's capital is effectively besieged.
There are quarters where it's definitely a no-go area. And more than probably, there are wounded people who cannot reach anymore our hospitals. Our main fear is about the supply. So as there are the ports, as the airports are closed, it's impossible to bring in some medicines, and that's our worry.
U.S., Canadian and Caribbean officials met in Jamaica to discuss standing up a new Haitian government and sending foreign police and troops. But Haitian factions remain far apart.
We have impressed on the respective parties that time is not on their side.
The Caribbean community was hoping for just one proposal from Haiti's political and civic leaders, but instead they got at least 4 and maybe as many as 7. And at the same time, we're trying to address the reality that exists today on the streets. What do you do about the gangs? I mean, do you bring them in or do you make them part of the equation? And the most important question is, will a political deal basically temper down this violence?
The backbone of a proposed multinational force will be made up of police from Kenya.
Canada is supporting that force with money and resources and training, and we're going to do everything we can to restore order. The discussion today will be really focusing on that question, but also on the question of the political transition that will allow an election to take place. But right now, we couldn't have an election because there's too much insecurity and too much violence going on in the communities.
The situation in Haiti's capital is so far gone, it's not clear how any police force can retake the city. Even if the multinational force finally comes together, it would currently have only a maximum of about 3,000 police officers, about 1/3 the size of Haiti's own outnumbered force. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Turning to the latest on the Israel-Hamas war, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is signaling that a ground offensive into Rafah in southern Gaza will proceed. It comes despite talks to reach a deal for a ceasefire and hostage release. There had been hopes it would be reached before Ramadan, but it has already begun. Journalist Alex Cadier is in Jerusalem with more.
Well, this still feels like a city on edge. We've seen clashes between Israeli border police and Muslim worshippers who have come to this city in their thousands to pray during the holy month of Ramadan at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. On several occasions, they were restricted from doing so, restricted from approaching the mosque's compound by Israeli police forces, saying that they had to do so for security reasons. Well, the Jordanian foreign minister, reacting to the scenes we've seen in this city, says that behavior by Israeli border police of the like would push this city towards an explosion in what should be a moment of celebration, a moment of family and friends gathering to celebrate the start of Ramadan. Is one of a somber and apprehensive mood across this city. Somber and apprehensive also because of the situation in Gaza, the 500,000 people which the UN says is on the verge of starvation, something that is felt very profoundly by Muslims here, marking the start of the holy month of Ramadan. And of course those ceasefire talks which are ongoing, we understand from Egyptian security officials, ongoing mediation by the United States, Qatar and Egypt, trying to get a deal across the line, but certainly those sticking points remain the same. Israel has demanded that Hamas provide a list of those surviving hostages. Hamas says they can't do that so long as there is a military operation by Israel in Gaza. The other big sticking point is the end to this war, and clearly Hamas most recently saying that Israel prevented the negotiations from having a successful outcome because they couldn't agree the terms to the end of this war, and that remains the big unsolved problem. Israel's objective is the eradication of Hamas, which through mediators they are negotiating a temporary ceasefire. The United States, we understand, suggesting a smaller pause in a couple of days to put these talks back on track and perhaps allow Hamas to take stock of the surviving Israeli hostages being held in inhuman conditions in Gaza, according to the United Nations. But certainly this feels like a city on edge. This feels like a tinderbox that could really escalate at any moment. Particularly, we saw those clashes between Israeli border police and worshippers here in Jerusalem. So a lot of uncertainty in this city. Alex Cadier for CBC News, Jerusalem.
Sweden's flag now flies at NATO headquarters in Brussels. The alliance is welcoming its 32nd member 2 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Today, as we raise the Swedish flag, we stand together in unity and solidarity, committed to protect and defend each other, all for one and one for all.
The Nordic country entering the transatlantic alliance puts an end to its decade-long neutrality. Both Sweden and Finland sought NATO membership following Vladimir Putin's decision to launch a full-scale Russian attack on Ukraine in 2022. Swedish and Finnish forces have often trained together in the past. Now the membership helps integrate the troops more deeply into the military alliance. Britain is used to seeing photos of the royals by now, but one this weekend is in the spotlight today. It was an innocent enough picture of Kate and her children until people noticed alterations. Then it turned into headlines. CBC's Chris Brown reports.
On a day to celebrate the Commonwealth, the theme of the event was resilience of the 75-year-old institution and, it would seem, of Britain's royal family. With King Charles out undergoing cancer treatment, Queen Camilla led the royal delegation to Westminster Abbey. But it was the also absent and recuperating Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her Mother's Day photo that upstaged the main event. News agencies issued a dramatic-sounding kill order for the photo after eagle-eyed social media sleuths saw clues it had been digitally altered. Among them was that the sleeve of Princess Charlotte's arm had partially disappeared and a zipper on Catherine's sweater was misaligned. The Princess of Wales hasn't made any public appearances since abdominal surgery in January, and the internet was already in overdrive with rumors about how well she's recovering.
This image was designed to sort of quash those rumors and to make everyone feel very reassured that she's fine and with her children and enjoying Mother's Day like many others. And of course, it just took a very, very different turn.
The mystery of who altered the photo and why was answered by Catherine herself, tweeting, "I do occasionally experiment with editing. I wanted to express my apologies for any confusion."
Down with the crown!
Whether that put the issue to rest appeared to depend on what you thought about the monarchy in the first place.
They say they want to be part of public and being open and honest, but they're not open and honest.
We're picking holes in everything, aren't they? You know, we just get on with life.
The King, meanwhile, sent video greetings to the Commonwealth ceremony.
In recent weeks, I have been most deeply touched by your wonderfully kind and thoughtful good wishes for my health.
After the apology, Catherine was glimpsed in a vehicle with William. Kensington Palace has indicated she'll return to duty after Easter, and this royal author expects only then will the speculation be put to rest.
I think that's the moment where the press do decide, okay, is this more serious than we think, or are we back on track?
Kensington Palace said the Mother's Day photograph was taken by Prince William last week, but they will not release the original, which means it's impossible to assess what parts have been changed or enhanced. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Coming up, we'll have the latest on the 96th Academy Awards, including the stars who took home an Oscar. The glitz and glamour of the 96th Academy Awards is now in the rearview mirror, but Hollywood is still basking in the afterglow of its biggest night. Oppenheimer dominated the competition at the Oscars, winning 7 awards, including Best Picture. Here's CBC's Eli Glasner with a look at some of the night's highlights.
At the Oscars in Los Angeles, the 2 big stories were the triumph of Oppenheimer winning in 7 categories and the surprisingly strong performance of Poor Things starring Emma Stone. But let's go back to Oppenheimer, which won in some of the biggest categories, including Best Picture, Best Director for this amazing film directed by Christopher Nolan, Best Actor for Cillian Murphy becoming Oppenheimer, and Best Supporting Actor from Robert Downey Jr., who, as always, very amusing in his acceptance.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, fellas. That's amazing. You only flubbed 1 line. I'd like to thank my terrible childhood and the Academy in that order.
Now, as I mentioned, Poor Things did very well at the Oscars, winning in 4 categories, including a very surprising win in the Best Actress category. Many thought that Lily Gladstone would make history, winning Best Actress for her performance in Killers of the Flower Moon, but instead, it was Emma Stone performing as Bella Baxter in this film, which actually took home the award for Best Actress, and you can see even Emma herself seemed very surprised.
Oh boy, this is really overwhelming. Sorry, okay. And my voice is also a little gone. Whatever. The women on the stage, you are all incredible, and the women in this category.
There was only 1 Canadian win at the show, and that was Ben Proudfoot for co-directing The Last Repair Shop, but that's actually Ben's 2nd Oscar award. He's already won previously. And if you're a fan of Barbie, well, Barbie only won 1 award, but we did get to see our very own Ryan Gosling performing as Ken in a fantastic musical number which featured Gosling, Slash on guitar, and an army of dancing and singing Kens, sending off the Ken character in style. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Los Angeles.
And CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk is here. Riley, I walked my dog today. I wore a lighter jacket and I was sweating.
Yes.
It was so nice.
A very nice day today after a very nice weekend. And we not quite into record-breaking territory, but certainly an above seasonal day. Here's some of our daytime highs from today. Got up to 10 degrees in Winnipeg this afternoon, 12 in Steinbach, and 11 down into the Winkler-Morden region. Looking further to the east, though, Fort Frances hitting 16 degrees this afternoon. A bit cooler back to the west, though, where we did see some of that instability pushing through central Manitoba and right around the freezing mark into the Churchill region today. So we've had a southerly flow. This mild pocket of air is what we've been under for the day today. That will erode as this air starts to sink a little bit further to the south. Then we get this push of cooler air to round out the work week. Cool as in still above seasonal, but a little bit cooler than we have seen over the last couple of days in Manitoba. But by the time we reach the weekend, we're into colder than seasonal territory in terms of temperatures. So 7 degrees at the airport and in Eli, still 9 downtown at this hour. And we're seeing temperatures a little bit cooler to the west, though. Roblin at 4, Dauphin and Swan River both at 5 degrees, and temperatures at the freezing mark in Churchill and 9 degrees in Thompson. So looking at your forecast for tonight, you can see here's a little bit of that instability that will push across central Manitoba, looking at temperatures of -7 in Brandon, Verdun getting to about -8 tonight, and we have a good chance of seeing some mixed precipitation, some rain, some flurries through Norway House, Barons River, into the Island Lake region overnight tonight, and Gillam getting to -4. So hour by hour as we head into the day tomorrow, by the time we hit noon, Flin Flon and the Pas around -2, -3, a few flurries through Island Lake and Norway House, and reaching about -1 in the Thompson region. Other areas sticking around that freezing mark as well. In the south, starting the day at around -6 in Brandon, getting up to -2 by the noon hour, +2 in the Winnipeg region. A bit warmer to the south, but a mix of sun and clouds as we get through tomorrow, hitting a high of 2 in Winnipeg and the freezing mark in the Brandon region. And you can start to see on the precipitation here that instability starting to move into southeastern Saskatchewan. This is what will push into Manitoba as we get through the day on Wednesday. And temperatures in the Dauphin-Swan River region, Caroline, at around the freezing mark. Northwestern Ontario looking at a mix of sun and cloud as well, and temperatures around 3 and 4 degrees. Your 7-day forecast is coming up.
Awesome. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
A dog show in England has settled the age-old question of who's a good boy, for this year at least.
Very special dogs here.
There it is.
And it is Viking. It's the Australian Shepherd.
Oh my God, I love this. This Australian Shepherd named Viking has been crowned the best at this year's Crufts dog show. The second prize was snagged by Zen, a Jack Russell Terrier. The famous annual competition allows different breeds to show off their abilities and skills. Nearly 20,000 dogs competed during the 4-day event in Birmingham. Still to come, how a Winnipeg University student copes with OCD. It's the latest production from students at Sisler High. On any given day, Winnipeg University student Calandra Strout might wash her hands until they bleed, her countertops until they shine, her backpack if she touches it, and any doorknob along the way. Strout lives with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Her story is the latest project from budding filmmakers taking part in Sisler High School's CREATE program.
My name is Calandra Strout. My pronouns are she, her. I like to keep things clean. I like to wash my hands. So I do a lot of hand washing. I do a lot of showering. I do a lot of cleaning. Yeah, and I have a lot of obsessions about contamination.
With obsessions, they are unwanted, they're persistent thoughts, images, or urges that people feel compelled to respond to.
Perfect, so I've got blood on my hand now. So yeah, this is what I meant with the digging into the cuticles to clean them out. And I do that. Every little thing that I do, I have to think about and think about the consequences that it could have. And what sort of compulsions it could lead to. It's really just, it's kind of agonizing and it never ends. I once tried to describe it kind of like a black tar on your hand that nobody can see except you. And as you go around day to day, everything that you put your hand on, you leave this sticky tar handprint, and everything that other people touch, now they get the tar on their hands, and it spreads and it spreads and it spreads exponentially. But it doesn't matter to anybody else, it only matters to me because I'm the only one who can see it.
What's the difference between someone who has OCD and someone who's maybe a little obsessive is the fact that it is unwanted and it's intrusive and that it takes up ample amount of people's time in a day.
I was getting ready for my first exam and suddenly I couldn't touch my binder, and there was something wrong with my binder, and every time that I went and I grabbed my binder, I was getting in and out of the shower. I think I took 3 or 4 showers in about 2 hours. And I was just, every time I would get out, I would get dressed, and then I would I would try to get back to my work and have the same panic attack over and over again. Nobody in the house could get me to calm down from it. And so at that point, we went looking for outside help. And that was really the breaking point. And I would describe that as by the end of the day, or the 3 days, it was about a 72-hour-long panic attack where I would exhaust myself. And so I couldn't keep having the physical panic attack, but the mental part of it never stopped.
We need to learn to become vulnerable. I always say that vulnerability is the birthplace to happiness. By being vulnerable and showing our vulnerability is the opportunity for us to be able to reach out and get that professional help.
When I decided to admit myself into the hospital, it was a really hard decision that October, but it was, in the end, probably the best decision that I could make. And you know, I'm at school, I'm tutoring, I'm doing all kinds of things. So even though it's still affecting my life quite a bit and there's still a lot of compulsions, I'm managing to live my life.
That piece was put together by Marcus Ramaskal, Gabriel Bezo, and Bridget Clemente, all students in Sisler's CREATE program. Still ahead, Riley Leitchuk is back with a last check on your weather. This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Well, now that we've sprung our clocks forward, expect a little more sunshine through the evening hours. Today, sunset at 7:29. That gains about 10 minutes of sunlight by the time we get to a week from now. 2 weeks from now, 7:50, and this is kind of the next milestone if you really like sunnier evenings. April 1st, we're looking at a sunset at 8:01. So we're starting the day tomorrow in Winnipeg at 1 degree, west winds at 10. We start to see a little bit of clouds starting to build in as we get into the afternoon, +2 forecast high tomorrow, northwest winds at 10. So not as breezy today as it was, but we will see some cloud building in. Chance of flurries Wednesday. Could see some more snow and rain moving our way for Friday and clearing out in time for next week. Well, it was a great weekend to get outside and enjoy, of course, what's left of winter.
That's right. Several newcomer families had the chance to try some weather activities yesterday at a Welcome to Winnipeg event at Cap Manitou.
Now there was snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and of course, hockey, Caroline.
Of course. Here's your daily lift.
Oh, skating?
Skating.
I like it. I love it. So my kids too, yeah. It's really enjoying to be here. So I'm still here with my husband and my kids, and they were very excited to be here.
Welcoming people to Manitoba is really important. There's no better sense of community than in our province of Manitoba.
You were born when I skated the first time. Well, we think it's very important for our newcomers to sort of be introduced to winter in a more positive, fun way.
I just wanted to have a lot of fun with my family, with my kids. That's why I'm here. It's my first time here, so I have never been here before, but I like it. It's for a real cool place to spend the time with your family, with your kids, I don't know, with your friends. It's for a real cool place.
Those kids skate better than I can.
And me too. And the funny thing is, my parents were newcomers to Canada. They didn't put us in anything. I don't know how to swim, skate, bike, you know,
well.
Whatever. Never too late to learn.
Never too late, Caroline.
Anyways,
nice having you here.
Yeah, thank you. And nice for the weather, too.
We'll do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll try. See you guys.